Section 3, we're looking at multi-step equations at this point. So we started off with just one-step equations. You add, you're done. You subtract from both sides, you're done. You multiply to both sides, you're done. You divide by both sides, you're done. Now we're looking at equations that have more than one operation, more than one step. So let's talk order of operations. We'll start with that. So order of operations, we know to be our, there it is, PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So I'd like you to write, is go ahead and write PEMDAS and write it exactly like that, please. PEMDAS with the M and the D and the A and the S over each other. Because we could do multiplying or dividing from left to right, adding or subtracting from left to right. It doesn't have to be multiplying first. So I have them kind of grouped in that way. And please put to the side that we're going to add more to this. And then I'm going to have you write this, 4a plus 10, 4a equals 2. It sounds like 4 and 4, but different spellings. In this situation, we're not solving for a. We already know what a is. It tells us. It says a equals 2. So we're already good to go there. So I'm going to substitute. I'm going to say, well, 4 times 2 plus 10. If I follow my order of operations, and there's a reason I'm going through this again. If I follow my order of operations, and I go slowly, I want to do any multiplying or dividing first, and then do adding or subtracting. So I do 4 times 2, excuse me, is 8, and then I add them together and get 18. What we're going to be doing is instead of evaluating, instead of saying, I know what a is, and now I'm going to figure out what it equals, we're going to say, we know what it equals, what is a? So we're going to work, essentially, we're going to be working backwards through this process. We're going to know the answer. We're going to want to know what's the question. Kind of what we're getting to. We have a lock, and we want to find the key, which is kind of weird, but we've got the answer, and we want to know what the question was to start with. So let's look at a different question. Solve 18 equals 4a plus 10. So now we don't know what a is, and we're going to solve for it. What we're going to do, since we're working backwards through this problem, we're going to work backwards through PEMDAS. So please, right above PEMDAS, go ahead and write in a backwards arrow, and we're going to write SNOIT to repo for read row. And yes, I actually want you to write SNOIT to repo for read row. It's fun to say, fun to do. SNOIT to repo for read row. It sounds like it's a language, but it's not. If you read it backwards, it's order of operations backwards. Order of operations. And so it's order of operations backwards. We're going to do SNOIT to repo for read row. We're going to work through that order of operations backwards. Just like here in the problem we did a minute ago, we went forwards through PEMDAS because we knew what a was. A was 2. So we worked through our order of operations. In this case, solve this problem, we're going to work backwards. It is important that we follow an order of operations, that we do certain things first. It's going to make your life so much easier. If we follow SNOIT to repo for read row, if we go backwards through PEMDAS, we're going to deal with any adding or subtracting first. Then we're going to deal with any multiplying or dividing. So in this problem, there's a 4 times a, and there's a plus 10. If I work backwards through my order of operations, I'm going to deal with the adding or subtracting first. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides of that equals sign. 18 minus 10 is 8 equals, I have not dealt with this 4a yet. This 4a right there is still there. All right, now I have a whole new problem. I've got 8 equals 4 times a. Now I'm going to deal with my multiplying or dividing. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So my solution 2 equals a, which is what we started with. These are just the same exact problem worked in different directions. And so that's how we do these problems, is we work backwards through PEMDAS. We deal with any adding or subtracting first, then we deal with multiplying or dividing, and then we deal with exponents, and then we deal with parentheses, but in that order. And so that is an important step that we're working backwards, again, because we already know the solution. We know the solution is 18. We want to know what's the question. So we're going backwards through that process. Let's do another one. Okay, so we've got 5t minus 2 equals 32, or negative 32, excuse me. If I work backwards through PEMDAS, I'm going to deal with any adding or subtracting first. So there's a minus 2 there. So I'm going to deal with that minus 2. I'm going to add 2. So I have 5t equals negative 32 plus 2 is negative 30. Yeah, if it's 32 below and it gets 2 degrees warmer, it's going to be 30 below, still cold. And then it's 5 times t. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. I get that t equals negative 6. Next one, same idea, and you can always work faster than me if you want. I've got a plus negative 4 here. But remember that if you have plus negative 4, you have a couple options. You could subtract negative 4, because that's the opposite of plus. And that works. The other way is to remember our goal, the purpose of doing this inverse operation stuff. The purpose of doing that opposite is to get rid of it, to make it 0. Because negative 4 minus negative 4, anything minus itself, is 0. But I also know that negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So I could add 4 to both sides, which is the same as subtracting a negative. I have 7x equals 7. And you might be able to figure out the answer already, that 7 times something equals 7. That something would have to be 1. But if I divide both sides by 7, I do get that x equals 1. And that's how we do these problems. I'm going to do one more with you that involves a fraction, just to have that out there. And then I'll have you try one on your own. So I'm going to do this one with you. Y divided by 8, remember y eighths is the same as y divided by 8, minus 3/4 equals 7/12. That's a lot of fractions. Well, let's start looking at it. I am going to have to add, because there's minus 3/4 here. So I'm going to have to add 3/4. But if I'm going to add 3/4, I do need to have common denominators. 12 seems like a good common denominator. So I'm going to do times 3 times 3. And I'm working through this kind of quickly, simply because we've already talked about how to get common denominators. All right, so minus 3/4 plus 3/4, that's 0. So I have y over 8, y eighths. And 7/12 plus 9/12 is going to give me 16/12. It's a hard one to say for whatever reason. Because I don't like big numbers and I want to avoid them if I can, I am going to reduce 16/12 the way it is. I'm going to rewrite this as y over 8, just because I don't like big numbers if I don't have to. I know I can divide them both by 4. So I'm going to reduce it. Smaller numbers are often easier to work with. So, okay, we got 4/3 then. 4/3 equals y over 8. Well, that y over 8, well, that's division. Y divided by 8. So I'm going to do times 8. Times 8. Remember, you can always change a whole number to a fraction. And when we're multiplying with fractions, we've got 4 times 8. We can multiply the top times the top, numerator times the numerator. 4 times 8 is 32. 3 times 1 is 3. So I've got 32/3, which is reduced. Or, if you prefer, 10 2/3. But I would accept either of those. Lots of work. I mean, looking back at it, there's a lot that we did there, but we followed the steps. We dealt with adding or subtracting first. We got common denominators, added them together. I reduced it just because I don't like big numbers if I can help it. And then it's y divided by 8. So I did times 8 and multiplied the top times the top, bottom times the bottom. I'd like you to try this one, and you have it, you don't have it in your notes. Let me move it down a little bit just so you can see it. Oops, nope, let's try that again. There we go. N divided by 7 plus 2 equals 2. I'd like you to give that one a try on your own. Pause it. I'm assuming you pause it. I'm assuming you try it on your own. What you get for this one is that N equals 0. If you didn't get N equals 0, watch the linked video or below in the problems here and see how it's done. I'd like you to try this one. I'd like you to try this one on your own. See if you can't get N all by itself. and u all by itself. It sounds weird, but get u by itself. Get u by yourself and see what you can do. I'm assuming you paused it. I'm assuming you tried it on your own. In this case, n is going to equal 15. And in the bottom one here, u, well, you're number 1. Way to go, everybody. You're number 1. So u does equal 1 in this case. And if you didn't get that, watch the video, watch the linked videos, see how it's done. I'm going to do this one with you, and then I'm going to have you try a couple on your own. So we do have, oops, sorry, I take that back. I'm going to do 2 with you, and then maybe try one on your own. In this one, we've got a lot there. There's more than one set of x's. We've got an 8x and a plus 5x, and then we've got this minus 21 there. I can combine things together. I can combine like terms together in this case. So 8x's plus 5x's is going to give me 13x's minus 21 equals negative 15. So I can combine things together first to simplify the problem. Now, I've combined everything I can. Deal with the subtracting first. Go backwards through PEMDAS, noit to repo for readrow. Add 21, add 21. So 13x is going to equal, let's see, negative 15 plus 21. I'm going to rearrange that. Remember, negative 15 plus 21, adding is commutative. So that's like 21 plus negative 15. But when you add negatives, well, that's just like subtracting. So 21 minus 15, 6. Negative 15 plus 21 does work out to be 6. 15 below goes up 21 degrees. It's going to be 6 above. All right, now I'm going to keep going here. I've got 13 times x equals 6. I'm going to divide by 13, divide by 13. This is where the decimal lovers in you are going to freak out because 6 divided by 13 is not pretty. The fraction people out there are going to love it because your answer is right there. We're done. 6/13 is the answer. When you divided by 13, you got a fraction. You're done. X equals 6/13. It's even reduced. Oh, it's beautiful. If you want to make that into a decimal, okay, but why? Why would you do that to yourself? Just leave it. 6/13 is a great answer. Leave it alone as 6/13. This one, again, I'm going to do this one with you, and then I'll have you try one on your own. We've got parentheses. That's an issue. We have a couple choices here. One choice is, and this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to get rid of the parentheses because parentheses are going to cause issues. I can't get the 3 connected to this 4 over here because it's in the parentheses. So I have to break it out. We've done this before. We're going to break it out of prison, so to speak. We're going to use the distributive property. And we're going to say that negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And negative 2 times a negative d. Remember, that is a minus d. It's a negative d. If you prefer, do plus negative d, but it's still a negative d. So a negative 2 times a negative d, positive 2d. That's going to take some practice to get used to. But a negative 2 times a minus d, or a negative d, ends up being a positive 2d. It's 4. Okay, now we can go from there. Those are very, very festive colors. Again, I want this to become 0. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. We get 2d equals 10. Divide is the opposite of multiply. D equals 5. We're getting more difficult. More steps require you to be more careful and more places to make mistakes. So be careful with these. I'd like you to try this one on your own. Pause it, try it on your own. Assuming you paused it, I'm assuming you tried it on your own. If you looked at it and went, oh, I don't know, do something. Try something. I'm assuming you did something with the numbers. You tried something. You tried to get y by itself. Work combining things, something. The answer for this one is that y equals negative 2. If you didn't get y equals negative 2, watch the linked video. All right, we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Good luck.